obviously moved on. I don't know that we're going to dwell upon anything from last week, and we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate to have a rivalry game this week, which helps you get past all those other things from the weeks before. So there's no time to sit and wait and sulk. The greatest thing is we come in on Sunday and get the chance to take part in the second longest rivalry in college football history, the first outside of non-conference, the longest standing rivalry, second most played rivalry game ever, only behind I think Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Paul Bunyan's Axe. So it's a great opportunity for us. A great opportunity for us to move on, get focused on what we got to do here in the future, find a way to get better. I think that's ultimately the most important thing, is get some of those other monkeys off your back and say, hey, how do we get better, and focus in and lock in. Rivalries are about one thing, and it's about respect. I told the guys that on Sunday. I'll continue to reiterate it again today. We have a lot of guys in this program that aren't from just around here. We've got freshman kids from Florida or Georgia. They're walking in here with have no idea of what the rivalry is all about. It's our job to teach them. But whether they grew up with it, whether they've ever played in it, whether they've ever heard about it, they must understand that rivalries are not about anything other than respect. It's not about a record. It's not about who's better on paper. It has nothing to do with the outcome of last week's game, or last year's game, the year before's game, or whatever the true history of the outcomes of the rivalry are. It's about a 1 week season, and for us, different too. A 1 week season in the sense that we got to buy in the following week. So, really, really fortunate to have this game, I think, where it is right now, to really kind of turn our focus and to get our attention on what's needed.
Questions?
Health-wise, did you come out relatively clean from Columbus?
I think so. I mean, obviously, Des went out of the game briefly there with a little ding. We had a few other guys that had little dings here and there, but hopefully that everybody will make the belt this week. I know in the first week we had some things. We had some things right before the first game with dokes and stuff like that, but hopefully we came out pretty healthy. And, Tuesdays are always the day to find that out, to see where guys are, see if they're wounded dogs or hungry dogs, and we'll find out.
Coach, the bell is right there, right now. Do you know where it's usually kept?
Well, sometimes it's in the closet in my office. We sometimes have kept it, on display in our room. We've had it out at camp, but it can be kept whichever. As long as it's kept here at UC, I think that's the most important thing.
Why bring it out to camp?
What's that?
Why bring it out to camp?
Well, we want the guys to understand and know what the rivalry is all about, the history of the rivalry. Like I told you, we've got a lot of guys that didn't grow up in the history of the rivalry. I'm one of them. I didn't grow up knowing the history of UC and Miami's rivalry. And my job when I came here was not to how do you respect the rivalry, as you understand and learn and teach your team about it. So we always take those times at night to do some of the UC history, whether it's the history of our stadium, the history of our program, focus on the rivalry. So make sure during camp time, the time we have all that together, the guys are understanding what's important to our program, and this game is really important to our program.
You talked Saturday about wanting to see how the kids responded Sunday when they came in. What was your thought about the vibe?
We had a really good response. Like I said, those guys that were dinged up and hurt a little bit, all I asked them to be was not to be wounded dogs. And wounded dogs, a guy that walks around and sulks and has his shoulders down and slumped over and got a bad look on their face, whether they're hurt or not. And I tell you what, we went out there without any wounded dogs, and guys responded well, and that's what the test is all about. I mean, this is a marathon of a season, and it always is. It's not just 3 or 4 or 5 games. The beauty of it is you're going to have to swing every single week, and that's why that whole philosophy of getting 22 guys on offense, defense, and special teams as well, because you're going to have some of these situations whether guys get dinged up, whether guys don't play well. I mean, somebody else has got to have the opportunity to step up, and there's no greater time.
How do you approach a film session like that, where obviously there might not be a ton of obvious?
We didn't spend a whole lot of time on it. Us as coaches spent time on it. By the time the kids walked in here, we had a few things that we wanted to show them to make sure that they understand things that we have to get better on and at. But we didn't spend a whole lot of time with it. Again, you've got to learn from those things, and I think individually guys learned as much as anything, whether we got to point some stuff out on film. So there's always a balance. You got to find what your team needs, and and if we were in a situation where I felt like we needed to watch the whole thing and sit down and really evaluate it, then we would have done that as a defense together, an offense together, or even as units together. But I believe the best thing for us was to pick out a few things, pinpoint a few things. It's about us, about how do we get better and move forward to the future. And we took a little bit of time of that, and then got right onto the rivalry.
Harry Young said after the game that the players, they're not losing another game. What does that say about how the players are responding as a collective unit after a tough game like that?
Well, it's not about what you say, it's what you do. And sometimes guys in those situations, they're going to say some things. Perry's a very confident guy, and he's a leader, he's a big part of our team. But the only way that you can ever have a chance to make anything like that come true is to focus on the next week. And I think that, is what our program's been about. We didn't go into camp and put a lot of emphasis on, any game other than the very first game. The only other emphasis we put on in camp was about this rivalry game. And I think that's what I want to show from our program more than anything, is regardless of who we were going to play in week 2 or who we were going to play in week 4, it was about, hey, who are we playing in week 1? And we're always going to make an emphasis of what it's about to be a part of our rivalry.
We saw Tavion for the first time Saturday.
You saw him.
Yeah.
You saw him in camp. You saw him out at spring ball. But you
does
saw
that
him on the
mean
field.
Yeah, does that mean he responded positively?
Yeah, he did. He did. And we were in a situation, and he stepped back up and he became a part of it. And we got him back into the groove of playing the game. I think that we need him as a team, but we still got to make sure that he's all in the things that we're doing. And, since he's come back from camp, since we've come back from camp, he's done nothing but what our seniors and leaders and captains would expect. And when you do those kinds of things, you have opportunities. And when opportunities arise, you've got to take advantage of them. And I'm not saying we took the greatest advantage. We turned the ball over, but he took advantage of having an opportunity to play a game.
Luke, last week you talked about measuring yourself against the top 5 team. After that loss, do you feel like this locker room is hungry to go out and continue the dominance of this rivalry and prove themselves again?
We are on to this week. So last week is, we didn't spend a whole lot of time. So, there's only, I could say, yeah, I could sit here and tell you guys that, yes, we did this, we did that. But the reality is, what we see on Sunday, what we see on Tuesday at practice, what we see on Wednesday at practice is what you guys are going to see on Saturday. And I think that we want to, I don't want to say a whole lot. I want our actions to speak for ourselves. I trust these guys. I believe in these guys. We've come a long way, whether we, took a whooping or not. We've come an incredibly long way, and we're going to continue to grow. And I think this is going to be a great opportunity for us to grow and to get back at it.
It's your first time coaching in this rivalry game at Nippert Stadium, and you talked about leading up to UCLA, and you're excited to see what the atmosphere is going to be like. Is that the same for this game?
Yeah, I mean, this is a rivalry game. Now, whether we played it at Paul Brown the year before, whether we played it at Miami the year before that, we played at Nippert Stadium, we always love to play at home. It's exciting to get back in front of the home crowd, in front of our students in Ruckus, and I believe that they'll do the same thing they did in week 1. But when it comes down to a rivalry game, it's about just that. We kind of block out where we are and what we're, whether we're in Paul Brown or not, and focus on these things right here. Hope our guys aren't worried about that, but I hope they are excited about being back home and in front of the home crowd.
You mentioned it took a little while to get the running game going against UCLA, and then obviously Ohio State played well against it. Are teams stacking the box? Is it some of the inexperience on the offensive line?
No, I just think we got to continue to do some things to get Mike more involved, get him some energy and some momentum. But it's not the easiest thing in the world sometimes. We know we run the ball pretty well, but we got to find a better way to loosen some guys up. Obviously, last week was last week. UCLA was UCLA. This week we'll pose some different issues and problems as well. But either way, we know that we want to be a team that can run the football, and we've got to find ways to, for us to really to get Mike, whether it's longer runs or even some good momentum runs. It's big for us in our program, and our during a game to have that energy, and it's created a lot of times by the running game, whether it's Mike, whether it's Dez, whether it was 2 years ago it was Jared Dokes, who in a really tough game, we had no momentum. Just Jared Dokes on a couple 3-yard, 4-yard, 5-yard hard-fought runs really was the first time in that whole game that gave us some momentum. So we do pride ourselves not just on pounding the football downhill, but on generating some energy through the running game.
When you guys have won 13 in a row in this rivalry, does that reason either stress to these guys respecting it and that it is a big game?
We don't look at anything that's happened in the past of those games, because they don't matter, I'd say the 5 of the last 6 games that we've won, we've been outplayed. Obviously, I've only been outplayed. This will be my 3rd one. So last year, I think we played pretty well. The year before, we were completely outplayed. The 3 years previous to that, or the 4 years previous to that, as I look back at some of the films, I would say we were outplayed. And the reality is that's why it doesn't really matter whether the outcome of 2 years ago, 4 years ago, or 6 years ago. We got to respect the rivalry. How do you respect the rivalry? You prepare, okay, and everything that you do, you respect your opponent by the preparation and the emphasis that you put on a game. So I don't want our guys to look at whether we've won 2 in a row, 4 in a row, 6 in a row, 8 or 8. It shouldn't have any bearing on it because the rivalry far outweighs any of that. It has nothing to do with records and all those things. Now, with that being understood, you've got to understand, you need to realize that you've won a bunch of them in a row to get you motivated to say, hey, this team's going to come in here fired up. Then you don't really respect and understand what the rivalry is all about.
Sean Hicks led you guys in tackles on Saturday at Ohio State. It seems like he's settling in, plays James Wiggins nicely. What about him has allowed him to excel so quickly?
I think he's in a position where he has a lot of opportunities, and when opportunities come your way, you've got to be able to take advantage of it. Whether that's filling in for a guy that got dinged up, or you're in a game that there's a lot of opportunities. That's a spot for us that there's a lot of opportunities, and he's done a fine job at taking advantage of some of those opportunities. He's going to have to continue to grow, and we've got to continue to do some different things with him and put him in some situations where maybe we could be more aggressive with him because he can make some plays for us. So happy for what he's done and where he's at. Never satisfied, and I think that's the kind of the balance into how do you continue to get these guys to grow and not worry about always the outcomes. Don't look at, okay, well, did I play well? Not the outcome. It's the little fundamental things that say give us an opportunity ultimately to play our best ball at the end of the year.
Anything new on Kyrie?
No. I mean, he obviously came home with us. He was cleared after the game to leave. He's been cleared to be back with us as a part of the team, but there's a lot of still work they got to get done. Our guys aren't scared and nervous, but just the unknowns of things make it very difficult. It's across college football. Our medical staff's done a phenomenal job of just trying to reach out and find out if there's anything else out there that they can use to get a better grasp on what we're dealing with. So it's not easy for him either, to be in a situation because he feels really good and wants to be able to play. But there's a lot of things that we got to first find out.
And Coach, one thought from me would be just obviously part of being a college football coach is being a psychologist. And when a team gets beat up, and not just on the field, but I'm sure they're getting beat up from hearing from people around town, that kind of thing. How do you coach them back to the confidence level they were after they beat this year?
You don't just say, hey, you have confidence. You don't just do that to them. I mean, that's why we don't focus on just the outcomes. I think that's where it's, how we try to build ourselves around the things that we do. If you only rise and fall based on the outcome of a Saturday, then you know what, you're going to be disappointed a lot, and your emotions and your confidence level is going to go. That's why even on Sunday when you come in, there's some things you want to show them just about fundamental things and technique things that we can do better. But it's a body of work, and that's what you want them to understand. That same thing about the difference between stress and pressure. And when you have confidence in what you do, it's just pressure. And I think that when you really focus and look into some of those things, there's some positives that you can find from the game and say, hey, when you do things the right way, you have a chance to have success. When you don't, it's not just the big plays that happen. So there's not one thing. There's not some speech I can come up here and give them to say you're going to have the greatest confidence in the world. You get confidence through believing in yourself. You get confidence through preparation. You get confidence through doing things over and over again. You get confidence in your training. And I think that one game can't wreck you or ruin you. It could shake you, but if you really believe in what it is that you do and the way you've worked and the way you've done it, that's a part of the game. I told those guys, anybody that's never been punched in the mouth and beat up, you probably haven't played a whole lot of ball, whether it's football or any other sport. And you got to move on. You don't dwell upon it. It doesn't define you. We didn't say anything at the beginning of the year about wins and losses because we don't. It's a journey. It's not a destination that we're after. And hopefully those are the things that you build around to give you and gain confidence, and not just in yourself, but also in the people around you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.